Except women right now, they're probably going to
She's going to hang down in the car. We're going to make it look pretty. Fine. Don't feel like taking the jacket off with it and all that fun stuff. So. All right, let's go ahead and get into this tonight. Thank you all for being here. We do have a couple that messaged me, at least one that messaged me. They're sick tonight, so just keep them in prayer. Matt, the one kid that comes in, and some other ones that just couldn't make it tonight. We just pray that the Lord be with them and guide them. So I know that unless you guys have been living under a rock, you guys have been seeing the news. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then maybe you're not paying attention enough. So over the past year or two, we've had two things go on. Russia has attacked Ukraine. The battle's raging. Can't get over with. It's been going on for months. And that one has significance, but the big one that has significance that just happened was Hamas attacked Gaza and Israel. I want you to understand tonight, and part of my message, most of my message tonight is, this could be the start of the end. If you study biblical prophecies, if you study the way things come about, this could be the end of humanity as the way we know it. What God has had created and the destruction is coming. And I ask you tonight, my biggest question, and the question that keeps hitting me is, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for what is coming? You know, and I take it a little different because, and I'll get into this a little later, I know that there's a lot of back and forth on pre-rapture, post-rapture, mid-rapture. There's a lot of different theories out there. I'm not going to get into that. But the one thing I always told my church is, there's a reason Christ gave us certain warnings in the Bible. People think we're not going to go through any of it. Well, we're going to go through something. And if you are not prepared and if you are not ready, are you going to be able to handle what's about to come? Are you going to be able to handle what is coming? If you read in Ezekiel, Daniel, Matthew, Revelations, and many other books of the Bible, Thessalonians, Timothy, any of the Gospels, and you just keep going through, there's prophecy upon prophecy upon prophecy that line up together and speak what we're about to go through. I just use Ezekiel, Daniel, Matthew, and Revelation because those are the big ones quoted. Hey, have you read the Daniel prophecies? Have you read Ezekiel, the prophecy of the wars? Have you read this? If you don't understand that, go back and read them. They're all in there. They're hard to understand. I get that. Just study it. There's a lot of people out there that have done, the theologians that have done the studies, you can go read on. They'll explain it. First, I'm going to start in Ezekiel 38. So I'm going to go 1 through 7. You don't have to flip there if you want. You want to flip there, but I'm going to read it pretty quick because I got a few other scriptures I'm going to get to. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against God, the land of Magog, the chief priests of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say this, saith the Lord God. Behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief and the prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thy back, and put hooks into thy jaw, and will bring thy forth. And all thine armies, horses and horsemen, all them clothed with sort of armor, even the great company will bucklers and shields. All of them will handle swords. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with all of them, and all their shields, and helmet, Gomer and all his brands, and the horses of Togmar and the northern quarters, and all the brands, and all the people of thee. Be thee prepared, and prepared for myself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou guarded unto them. Now I'm going to stop there. I just went through verse 7. The reason I bring this up is because there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of studies. People read this and they're like, okay, I don't know what Gog and Magog is. Let's not even talk about it, whatever. Well, I want you to understand that through the studies and what is going on here, Ezekiel is getting a prophecy. God is speaking to him. He's getting a vision. Gog and Magog are the attacks that will come with Israel at the end. It all surrounds around Israel. And it is the king, and it is the battle, and the great commander that is going to bring the armies against Israel. Okay? So when you study it, Magog will come against Israel, but not only Magog. And you got to think, okay, what is Magog? Magog, in retrospect, what people believe is Russia. Okay? In today's time, if you study it. It was the land of Russia. And it says God is going to hook Russia and bring Russia down and say, now is the time to attack Israel. And you say, well, why is this important? Well, what's going on here? Why are you talking about Russia? Russia's fighting with Ukraine. But I want you to understand who is getting ready to attack Israel with the Hamas. With the Hamas, whatever you want, how you want to pronounce it. Iran. Who is Iran's ally? Russia. And you say, well, is this really going to go on? Well, I don't know. But the one thing I'm going to preach today is because I want you to be prepared. I am not saying this at the end. I don't know. That's between God himself. But I'm saying there are signs that are coming about that we need to keep an eye on. Iran has already quoted back, 15, 20, 30 years ago, I will wipe Israel off the face of the earth. This was from Iran themselves. So what has happened is Iran is backing the Hamas and saying, okay, we're going to stay out of it for right now, but I'm just telling you, we don't want a big war. But if it gets to that and Syria gets in, guess what? We're in. And which makes sense, because if Russia comes down and all these people come down, Persia is actually the land of where Iran is now. Ethiopia or Kush would be where Ethiopia is, okay? You go down to Ethiopia. And then you have Put or Libya on the other side. What does that do? That surrounds Israel on all sides. And if you study it, a lot of these are all allies. Okay? They're not with. Libya is the only one that's like back and forth, like, hey, I want America and I want Russia, and hey, I just want to be in the middle. Let's have fun. Let's blah, blah, blah. From what I studied, I could be wrong, but that's the only one I saw that was like back and forth. The other ones are pretty good allies, okay? To where if it comes down, they all are going to join up and attack Israel. Like I said, to the point when it comes down to it, Iran has already said, we will wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Hamas has started the attack. But we have to be vigilant and watching what's going to happen from here on out. Yes, was it start of a terrorist attack? Yeah. But we have to be ready. Because we don't know about where this is going to end up. We don't know about where we're going, where this is going to, what effect this is going to have. And I want you to understand, when I say this, when I'm saying get ready, is because I don't know if you guys know that the Homeland Security of the United States just had meetings. You say, well, why are they having meetings? Because they're getting ready for attacks on U.S. soil. Because they have already said that they are attacking U.S. soil. We could have bombs and missiles raining down on us within the next few months. Why? Because Iran, they've already promised that if this goes any further, we're going to attack U.S. exactly on their soil. So Homeland Security is trying to figure out how do we protect our homeland. The war is coming. Fear is coming. Are we ready? A part of this also, I want you to understand, I was talking to Pastor Scott the other night, I think it was you, I was talking about the Jews. Right now, the Jews, not only are they getting attacked in Israel, what has been happening? Colleges across the United States and people across the United States are protesting against the Israelites and against the Jews in support of Hamas. The Jews are starting to run and hide. What's the Bible say? In the end, you will have to run and hide in the mountains. It said, people of Judea, run to the mountains and get away because they will persecute you. Right now, we're seeing the Jewish people, God's people, I get when you go to the Jewish religion stuff, but still, if you have any ethnic background of Jews, of Jewishness in your body, they are fearing for their lives across America and across this world. Because for some odd reason, in human standards, we're going, everybody's backing Hamas. I don't get it. I get it because the devil's smart in what he's doing. And you know what? When they start with the Jewish people, who's next? The Christians. Anybody that believes in a God and a standard and I get it, they don't believe in Christ, and the Jews don't believe in Christ, and that's their downfall, but God's dealing with them on their own. I'm not going to that's between them and God. But they believe in God and a standard way of life, so do Christians. And what happens is when it's going to roll downhill, and we're going to be next in line, to guess what? We're going to get more and more persecuted, just as the Jews are getting persecuted left and right, and they are fearing for their lives. This war is coming, whether you want it to or not. Are you ready? Matthew 24, 1 through 8. And Jesus set out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him and showed him the building of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not that all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us then, when will these things be? And what shall be the signs of thy coming, and the end of the world? Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed, no man deceive you. For many shall come in the name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive you. And ye will hear the wars, rumors of wars. See that you do not be troubled, for these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes in many places. All these things are the beginnings of sorrows. Then they shall deliver you to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall arise, and shall deceive many. And love iniquity shall around, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached, and all the world for the witness unto all the nations, and then the end shall come. Verse 15. Then ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoke by the prophet of Daniel stand on the holy place. Then let him which is in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back for his clothes. And woe unto them with the child that give them the suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight not be in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Jesus starts and he talks about the temple being destroyed. And I want you to understand, if you understand that right there, even Christ said, he goes, but this is not yet the end. So he's saying things that we're going to go through and things that are going to happen. But he says, hey, it's not the end yet, though. And he's warning the disciples, you're going to go through all this. Don't think you'll be protected from all this because it's coming. But guess what? It's not the end. But just know that this is coming. We've seen this stuff over and over. And if you want to talk about where it talks about the temple being destroyed, he said this is the signs of the end, that this is the start of everything. The temple was destroyed and be rebuilt. Well, this technically happened. The original temple that Christ was sitting there pointing at and saying, the temple of God that is here, that shall be destroyed. This was done in about 70 AD in Israel. Everything was leveled, including the temple. It was completely destroyed. And they rebuilt it since then. They rebuilt a new temple. A new temple has come about. So, boom, one sign done. Okay, one sign's over. Then it goes in and it says, watch, and that many will come in the name of Christ and will deceive you. Well, I want you to understand, I take this in two different parts, right? One, people are going to come in the name of Christ and say, I am Christ, follow me. Total abomination, don't follow anything they is, God even talks about it later, some will come as prophets and say they're bringing Christ's word. And they will deceive many. What is going on in the world today? Churches upon churches upon churches are giving out a gospel and a book and a Bible, and they're preaching the Bible in a way that does not go along with the Bible. It contradicts everything in the Bible. And they are deceiving millions on a daily basis. The deceiving's already started. The falling away has already started. We're going to hear about that in a little bit. But then it talks about wars, rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. That's been going on for years, and it's really been going on lately because we had peace for a little bit. Guess what? Now we got wars of people just not liking each other, wanting to destroy each other for religious problems. Like Russia attacking Ukraine, there's really no reason for it. Ukraine was staying quietly to themselves. Russia's just a higher power, and he's arrogant, and he's like, I'm going to take over their land. I want them to be a bad part of me. There's no reason for it. Israel and Hamas, if you study it, they tried to give Hamas some land and Palestine some land. They tried to separate. They tried to do different things. And Palestine said, no, this is ours. Why? Because there's something about the Holy Land that everybody wants. I know what it is. It's because God made it holy. And Satan's trying to destroy everything of God he can. Then it talks about famines. What have we been having over the past couple of years? Let me just put it in perspective. Maybe not famines in the way that we think of famines, like, oh, I don't have any food to eat. But how many have noticed the price of goods have went up? How many have had those times where, man, I eat a lot of chicken, I work out a lot, I do all that. I couldn't buy chicken breast because it wasn't in the stores. Then all of a sudden you can't get ground beef, you can't, like, there's little things happening. And if they don't send up a red flag, then what are we doing? As Christians, we need to be, not worry about it, but I like to critique it a little bit. Hold on. Let me look at that. Hold on. This does look a little weird. Hold on. But some of us just go through the motions. It's time to stop going through the motions. Start looking at this stuff. Start looking at it with a magnifying glass and being like, hold on. What does this mean? Because not only do you have famines, it talks about earthquakes and pestilence. And they talk about earthquakes and then the earthquakes that'll happen, over in the areas and stuff like that. We've had different earthquakes happening. But I also want to talk about, it talks about natural disasters just in general. This past couple of years have been devastating across the world. And if you haven't paid attention to it, they're like, we're at more heat waves than we've ever had. We had the biggest hurricane hit landfall. We had this. Tsunamis are hitting everywhere. Not only that, now we're having snow in crazy places. Like, there's so much craziness going on. I mean, it's becoming normal, but it shouldn't be because it was never like this. They're talking about power grids going down because they can't supply enough power. There's little things slowly going around. And the sun is sending out solar flares like crazy. And they're thinking that could cause a problem with power grids and cell phones. We could shut down everything. There's a bunch of weird things going on. I don't get it. And pestilence. I don't even know if I got to talk about that. We just went through COVID. Okay? Not only COVID, do you guys understand that leprosy's back? It's in Florida. Okay? It's going crazy. A disease that we didn't have around in America, it's going crazy. Okay? I think it's been calmed down a little bit, but I want you to understand these little diseases are popping up everywhere, and the CDC is already getting backing to where they can start shutting down countries by the United Nations for nothing. That's political stuff. We're not going to get into that. But they're trying to establish all this. Then it talks about that you'll be handed over to be put to death and hated. I want you to understand, no, is this rampant in America? No. But if I want you to understand, because we've lived in our comfy lives over here, this has been going on in China for years. If you go over there and you wear a cross and you speak the name of Christ, guess what? We will never see you again. What do you mean, Mike? They will send you to concentration camps. They will beat it out of you, and if they can't beat it out of you, they kill you. This has been going on for years upon years upon years over in China. When people say, oh, pre-rapture's coming and I won't have to go through tribulation. Let me tell you right now, if you go talk to China, they say, we've been in tribulation for years. Don't talk to me about the rapture. Because they are dealing with what is about to come at us. And I have to to think, because some people do believe, and I'm not against it, I don't know, I'm just telling you my belief. This is a gray area, this doesn't change my salvation. But some people believe we won't go through any of that because God will pre-rapture us before all that. I'm sorry, then why did God warn us? There's something going to come. And if we are not ready, what's going to happen? I used to tell the Bible study, I'm not against pre-rapture. I'm not against post-rapture. I'm not against mid-rapture. I have my views. Doesn't change anything. If pre-rapture happens, guess what? I'm going to be with you guys going, hey, we didn't have to go through any. It's awesome. But if mid-rapture happens or post-rapture, I want to make sure the pre-rapture people are ready. Because if you're waiting for pre-rapture and everything happens up to mid or post-rapture, guess what? There's going to be a lot to fall away because they are not going to think, well, I'd be raptured by now, I'm fine. That's where my concept goes. I'm not saying don't believe in pre-rapture. What I'm saying is with all this coming, be ready for it in case it does come before you get raptured. Because one of the big things in Daniel that it talks about is the abomination. The Antichrist will be made known before the rapture of the church. And depending on your timeline, where does that come about? In the 7 years. I'm not going to get really theological. This is all that's like a classroom study. Let's go to classroom. I'm just preaching on what I think, but I'm not going to get real deep into that. Lord, I'm sorry. But, because it would be here all night. But this is coming to America, and you say, Mike, how do you know this is coming? I just told you. You have people supporting Hamas attacking Jewish kids in colleges. Why? For their belief. For their belief. These people have nothing to do with what's going on over there in Israel. No matter what Israel was to fault or whatever, they have nothing to do with any of it. They're over here trying to have a better life in America, and yet we are protesting on this land against them in the schools. And they are fearing for their lives. I never thought I would actually see it happen, but it's happening. The next thing that's going to happen is there's going to be people, because if they're allowed to get away with this and support a terrorist group, they're going to be marching through those doors protesting us. And let me tell you, the hardest thing is going to be is you're going to have to look at it in love. And I know me and Mom are going, we got some crazy attitudes, this ain't going to happen. But you have to. Because if you don't look at it in love, you're not changing a thing. It's just as Stephen, when they stoned Stephen to death, as he was in the pit, getting stones thrown at him, what did he do? He looked up at him and he said, Lord, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. As he was beaten with stones. Study what stoning is. It's not a fun way to go. And yet he was not worried about himself at all. We're also seeing it in America tremendously in 2 Timothy 4, 3-4. For the time will come when the men will not put away sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. If that does not put a pin in what America has done in the past 3 years, I don't know what does. I have people that I have known for years that have lived in church, and their grandpa and their dads were fire and brimstone. You know, it's one of those people when you come in, you're like, I wore my steel-toed shoes because I know they stepping on my feet today because they preach it hard. And they be in your face, spitting on you like you do, like, ah, you felt like you were burning, but you're like, okay, I'm burning now. I got to get saved. That's how these preachers were. Love those preachers. And yet now their sons and their grandsons sit there and say, I don't know if I believe the whole Bible. It's just some stories. There's parts that you need to believe, and the other parts you just don't believe. And they have turned their back on everything. Why? Because it doesn't agree with their way of life. Put it point blank, because I am not and I will not apologize for the word of God, that live homosexual lifestyles. They want to live this lifestyle. So they don't believe that the Bible was true in that aspect. And they believe it was just generational. I'm sorry if you don't understand this and if you don't studying the Word and studying history. I don't understand a lot. But if one thing in this Bible is contradicted, then the whole Bible is contradicted. Throw it out the door. So don't tell me you believe in one part and not the other. That's not how it works. That's not how any historical document works. But yet they want to do it with this one. And what happens is churches across America, some of them are people that live certain lifestyles, decide that they want to start a church that agrees with that lifestyle. Other ones are churches that are so worried about their numbers, their money, their places, what they're going through, that they allow that to come in. I can tell you right now, and I can tell you James Hooker's probably the same way, there will not be a pride flag flown in this church. Well, Mike, it's no. Because love is not reasserting what people believe. Love is telling them the truth and saying no. Because God does not agree with what you're doing. That is love. But I have to show love by showing I got to have pride flags. I got to have satanic emblems around. Churches are doing this. Why? Because it brings people to church. Yeah, and you're confusing them every step of the way. There's no truth in this. All I'm doing is saying, hey, high five. You came to church today. It's time to stop. And that was my little side note because that's where the church has gotten today. That's where the people have gotten today. And people in droves are flying to these churches. Look at the churches that have stadiums, that they're buying football stadiums. Go listen to their sermons and listen to what they're preaching. I'm not the one to condemn to hell. That's between God, but I am supposed to judge the physical. And when I see the physical and I see what they're talking about, I'm sorry I question it. There's something wrong there. Not all of them, but some of them. But people in droves are following these people. And the problem is they're going to follow them straight to hell. Monogamy is not right for the day. Mind-altering substances are becoming legal by the droves. You don't understand that? I think Colorado is already trying to, if they haven't legalized acid and stuff like this, it's crazy. It's crazy. They started with marijuana, whatever. I'm not going to get into that, if you believe it or not. I don't, whatever. But now you're doing acid and all these things? They're legalizing mind-altering substances. And I don't know where your view is on drinking. I'm not going to get into that. But I will say, the Bible says stay away from drunkenness. Stay away from something that is mind-altering. So you know what? You want to have a glass of wine that you drink? That's between you and God. But you want to be drunk streaking down the street in Bunker Hill? I say that's a problem. I don't think you can do that, okay? You might want to, but I don't think you're supposed to do that. But yet we're legalizing it from top to bottom that any drug you want is okay. And you can't get in any trouble for it. People are siding with terrorists. People are telling you whatever you feel like is who you are. You're a cat? Guess what? You're a cat now. Let me put a litter box in the bathroom. No! That is an abomination from hell and a lie from the pits of hell. But yet we have schools today that are being cited to where they are not allowed to tell parents when their kids feel this way, and they have to reaffirm it at school, and then they come home and they hide it from their parents. Tell you what, no, the day my school does that is the day I go in, we're going to have problems in that school. Because it is mine, they say, well, the kids feel the way they do, and we have to let them blossom. No. That's not how it works. Let me tell you how it works. How do you believe the way you do because your parents taught you? How do people believe the way they do because their parents taught you? 90% of animals live with their parents because they're taught how to hunt, how to walk, how to do whatever, scavenge for food. It's a teaching process. And you're not going to take that away from me. But they say, well, you're not supposed to. You're being you are being abusive to these kids by not allowing them. Because Johnny here said he liked he liked to play with a Barbie doll, he's got to be a girl. No, he doesn't. He's playing with Barbie dolls. I'm just going to be honest. My uncle used to do it. And what he would do, he would line Barbie dolls up and spray them with a hose till the clothes came off. I don't know. It was weird. He liked it. He's like, yeah, cool. He was a little boy. But he was a little boy that was having fun. Why does that make them a girl? It does not make them a girl. It makes them a child that is just trying to have fun with the toys that are around. Well, my son doesn't like to play any sports. He likes to dance and sing. Okay! Why does that make him a girl? It doesn't. Stop putting that in their heads. But these people think, well, because they do this and this and this, they got to be a girl. They act a little feminine, they got to be a girl. I'm going to put point blank. One of the greatest people I know acts a little feminine. Dude's awesome. Great man of God. Love him. But in today's time, if they act that way, we make them girls. No! Whatever happened to be tomboys and stuff like that? Like, yeah, just a little tomboy girl. But we're forcing this up on our kids, and we're taking the natural laws and the laws of nature that, guess what? Who wrote the laws of nature? God did. Okay? God wrote the laws of nature. And we're trying to turn it upside down and rewrite them. They're already talking about, I want to be honest with you, you probably haven't seen this. I'm in the technology industry, so I look up this stuff. They're trying to find out ways to download your brain into AI computers and stuff like that. You're trying to play God. This stuff's coming about. Why? Because the end is coming. And are we ready? Churches today, they don't want to cause the ripple effect, I call it, in a pool or something. When somebody says something that, or when you throw something, what happens? Ripples go out. And if you have, like, say you got leaves or something that you don't want in the pool and you throw it in the middle, you can actually ripple it enough to push those leaves to the edge. But churches don't want to cause that ripple because they don't want to get rid of that because that's their paycheck. They don't want to throw that ripple and get rid of the nastiness and the problems inside the church. Well, that's Johnny. That dude works at blah, 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 and he gives me $10,000 a year. That pays for a third of my check. If I get rid of him, I'm losing money. I don't care. I don't care. I love you, Johnny. Johnny's not here. This is a joke. Anybody watching on camera? Johnny? But I'm here to preach the truth. And if I upset you or I offend you, or you get mad about what I say, one, if I've said wrong, please come talk to me. I've told you all this. Come talk to me. We'll look at it and I'll admit I was wrong if you show me. Or two, God is beating you up and you don't want to accept it. You say, how do you know, Mike? Because I've been there. I've been there. I've been so mad at a pastor. Why would you say this? Don't say that. Like, you want me to leave? Pastor goes, no, I just want to preach the truth. And then I had to go back and say, man, I was totally wrong. You were right. God woke me up. But instead of that, we want to run and find somebody to speak the way we want. People don't want to cause issues with their families, their jobs, their neighbors. They'd rather go along with the crowd than speak up. That ain't fixing any problem. That ain't doing anything but reaffirming what they believe and going through the motions. To not speak up and to not talk to somebody about it, and I'm not saying, because if you read the word, it says do it out of love. It says guide somebody out of love, and you're trying to do it out of love. Now, I'm not saying that you can't, hey, I'm going to tell you I don't believe in this. Here's what the Bible says. Here's this and that. You want to go get something to eat? Yeah, do that. That's amazing. But when you don't say a word, it's just as bad as reaffirming what they believe. And that's what these churches have done. Well, if I don't preach on that, I don't have to be judged for it. Like, yeah, you're going to be judged for it because you didn't tell them that it was wrong. And again, we're supposed to judge in the physical. Not the condemnation, but in the physical. There's a reason Paul rebuked Peter in front of everybody. It was totally right for him to do. And he said, dude, what you're doing is wrong. You got to get your life right. Matthew 25 talks about this, and it comes right after Matthew 24 when it talks about the signs of the end. It says the readiness and stewardships. And when we say, it says Matthew 25, 1 through wherever we're going to go, it says, then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were wise, 5 of them were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But they that were wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at the midnight there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all the virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, give us your oil, for our lamps are going out. But the wise answered, saying, not so, lest there not be enough for us and you. But you know what? Go to them that sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went out to buy, the bridegroom came. And they that were ready went with him to the marriage. And the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open for us. But he answered, verily, verily, I say unto you, I know you not. Goes on to say, you will not know the day nor the hour that the Son of Man cometh. You will not know exactly when this is going to happen. There was 10 virgins total. 5 virgins prepared themselves, had the extra oil, had what they needed to survive. If you want to put it in perspective for a Christian, they studied, they prayed, they got with fellow believers, they sharpened themselves to be ready for when the bridegroom comes, they can stand and say, Lord, here I am. They were ready to go. And the other said, I came to church and I checked the box and I had a Bible laying in my car. And I thought when God came that would be enough. What happens, it even talks about it in Revelations, it talks about it in other places in the Bible, it talks, you were lukewarm and I spew you out of my mouth. I would rather you be hot or cold because I know what side you're on. Playing both sides is not the way to go. But too many people in this world are trying to do that and make it to the heavens. The problem is, we're seeing the signs now, and if we wait too long, that door is going to be open for us. And there's going to be millions of people that rush through that door going to see the Father. And if you are not ready and prepared, you're going to be sitting on the sideline trying to run to the altar to get yourself prepared. And it will be too late. The moment you see your fellow believers floating in the air to meet God in the clouds, it's too late. Now that I will go through the tribulation and the wrath of God. We must be at the other 5 virgins that we have so much abundance of the Lord's anointing and the Lord's Spirit that we are overflowing with it, that we are carrying abundance of it. Not the ones that just have enough to get them going just a little bit. A little kick of caffeine. You know what I mean? That's all the other 5 virgins had, just enough to, all right, cool, man, I'm good. I'm starting to drain, I'm crashing out. And the other one's like, we're good. We're going to trim ours. Guess what? We're good. We're going to get ours ready. Guess what? We're good. We know what that word says. We know that God's coming. We're good. And the other one said, well, can you give us some? No! You had your chance. If you would have been talking and dealing, and we would have been talking and dealing earlier, we would have all been on the same page. But you wanted to live in the world, live in the church too, and now you think we're supposed to just hand out everything to you. That's not the way it works. The time is coming. The end is near. Rapture is on our doorsteps. Are you ready? Are you ready to meet God in the clouds? It talks about the Antichrist, and you'll know the Antichrist because what? He'll bring peace to the Middle East. What's going on? There's no peace. There's war. War like we haven't seen over there in a while. Especially right there in the middle of Gaza. The guy's going to bring peace to the Middle East, and then he's going to set, when it talks about setting at the place of the abomination of desolation, it's going to be set in the temple of God. He's going to set himself up as God in the temple of God. We're on the fringe of it. Am I saying it is? No, because I don't know. But I'm saying God gave us warnings to watch for. These are warning signs, folks. I don't believe this is the time to stay mediocre. I don't believe this is the time to stay lukewarm. I don't believe this is the time to go through the motions. And you say, well, Mike, I'm just going to put it in perspective because I know how the human mind works. Well, Mike, what if the Lord doesn't come back for another 30 years? You made me push this hard then, and I didn't have to. I can tell you right now, if you push that hard now, in 30 years, you're going to be like, I'm so glad I did it, even though the Lord didn't come, because my life was blessed. But if you give up now in 30 years, when you try to come back, it might be too late. It's your option, it's not mine. My job and my calling and my passion is to preach the word and the messages that God gives me. The response, the dedication, the desire, the drawing is all on you, not me. I can tell you I'll be here to help if you need it. Call me. I don't always answer. Leave me a message, I'll call you back. Text me. I don't always text back right away. Give me time, I will text you back. If I didn't have to work, I'm just as busy as you guys are. I'm trying, and with my kids, but I will get back to you, and we will talk. But if we're not taking the opportunities to reach out and get help and guidance, and we're just trying to go through the motions, we're not helping ourselves. What if this was your last chance and we walked out, and all of a sudden the guy comes and he says, I bring peace to Israel, and I bring peace to Gaza tomorrow, and rapture happens. Are you ready? Are you ready? That's an easy question. We make it hard to answer, but it's not hard to answer. It's a yes or no. The reason it becomes hard to answer is because we question things in our lives. And if you're questioning, you probably need to get something fixed. Probably need to get something fixed. So as we move on, I would ask Scott to go ahead and get music playing in the back. If it'll play, obviously we know we're at the mercy of the internet here. But we are going to take a few moments to pray. We'll take about 5 to 10 minutes to pray if you'd like to have prayer. And then we're going to do communion after that. But I do, because God says, do not take this without the right heart. It's a sin against God if you take this not in the right heart. Make sure your heart's right. I challenge you on that too. Make sure your heart's right before you take communion. And then don't let communion be something that you go through the motions on. This is a sacred thing. This should be a blessed thing. Don't be clanging cymbals in the Lord's ears. Be a sweet sound and a sweet smell to the Lord as we give up our offering. So he's going to play some music if it starts. If it doesn't, we still got 5. I'll give you about 5, 10 minutes. We're going to pray. While we do that, we're going to get the other kids in there. So if you hear them coming in, don't let it disrupt you from praying. They're coming in because they can take communion with us. I know they can be loud and crazy. Paul's like, yes, I do. I know. I've got 8 of them at home. I got it. I've got 2 in the same way. But we got some music playing. If you'd like some prayer, cool. If you want to sit in your pew and pray, that's fine. Just take a moment, make sure your life's right. And then we'll go into communion. And if you want prayer, You got me, Pastor Scott, we'll pray with you in a heartbeat. We don't say fancy words, but we talk to God. That's all it's about. I don't know all the fancy words, but I know words, okay? So, we'll talk. Love you guys. Take some time to pray, and then we'll get communion going.